Hello, this is my review for the 1975 film Jaws. The Steven Spielberg film, one of my all-time favourite films, one of what I think I would argue is one of the greatest films ever made, nearly 50 years old, directed by Steven Spielberg, John Williams is the composer, starring, we've got the three iconic, the almost new improved version of the Three Musketeers with Quint, Matt Hooper and Chief Brody, where this film is iconic. I'm sure you've probably heard of this film a fair few times. You've seen parodies of it. This film's cemented its place in our culture, and ever since it came out in America, nearly 50 years ago, which is quite astonishing. This film still holds up. It's still got its place. It's still, without question, in the top 10, top 15, top 20 greatest films ever made. It's still, if you look at a whole bunch of different people's lists, people, Empire Magazine, Watch Mojo, lists of like iconic, great, absolutely spectacular films that have just taken our breath away. Jaws is almost always on the list of top 25 at least, usually top 20, sometimes top 10. Some people would say it's top 5. It is one of the most iconic and arguably one of the greatest films ever made. We obviously, of course, have the iconic opening scene when we see the two teenagers with a campfire and then they run towards the beach. And then one of them dozes off, falls asleep. He basically accidentally rolls over. He's trying to get undressed and he lies on his back and he falls asleep. And then we, of course, see what happens to the teenage girl as she swims further and further out. And we see the shark. We get to see an absolutely horrifying scene without the shark at all, which is truly quite astonishing. We get to see the shark shown in a nightmare-inducing fashion, but we don't get to see gore, blood, or anything scary. I suppose you could maybe make a comparison with that scene with The Shining and how scary aspects of that film are. But it's not drenched in blood. It's not like there's blood and guts and gore everywhere and anywhere. You know, it's like leaves it in your imagination in a sense. And I think that was possibly one of the reasons why the opening scene one of the best positives, one of the many great positives that this film has is that it doesn't tell you directly what's happening, but you can speculate as to what exactly is going on. And I suppose maybe if I was to theorize and to try and actually explain in detail why I think that works so well is that when we look at the ocean, when everybody goes on a boat and they look at the ocean, you can't see the bottom. So it factors into the fact that you can't see what's actually underneath the water. You can obviously, of course, see certain, like if whales or dolphins, if they emerge and you can see their tail, if you can see them just briefly as they come closer, and I'm sure you can see when people have seen sharks out in the ocean, they can obviously see their fins. You can see them as they get a bit closer, and you can just make them out. But you are unable to see 99% of what the ocean is in a sense. 99%, you can't see it. You just can't when you're out on the Atlantic or the Pacific or the Indian Ocean or what have you. And I think that was part of what made that scene so scary and why it was so brilliant. What just got off to an absolute... They hit a home run to start the film. They scored an amazing goal just as they came on the pitch, if you will. Police Chief Brody, Hooper, Quint, as I've already mentioned, fantastic characters. I liked Hooper's introduction. I liked the way in which we got to meet Police Chief Brody. But Quint... I think most people would agree, he stole the show, and his introduction when he's scratching the board, when he gives that speech, he completely captures your attention. You're enthralled by what you're watching. It's just him acting. It is just him acting. I think if my memory serves me correctly, the actor's name is Robert Shaw. I'm not always the greatest with actors and characters. Sometimes don't always know it. Sometimes I know an actor's name more, sometimes I know a character's names more. But I'm pretty sure it is Robert Shaw that plays Quint. His speech when he's talking, fantastic, as I've just said. We get to see Quint talking about World War II, that was fantastic. We get to see that scene when Quint is talking with Hooper and Chief Brody, and he says to Hooper, You've got city hands, Mr. Hooper. You've been counting money all your life. And then Hooper snaps back and says, I don't need this working class hero crap. That was another great scene. What other great scenes have we got here? I could really do a full review of this film and just talk about it for an hour if I was to really sit down. This is just my brief thoughts, shall we say, of Jaws, the iconic film. I suppose I want to mention the fact that this film has influenced countless TV shows and films. I want to mention that fact. The shark scenes in which we see Chief Brody say to Quint, to Quint, you're going to need a bigger boat. That scene was fantastic, and the shark being an actual prosthetic, not being CGI, was fantastic. It was just great, and I love that scene when Quint's like, it's 25. I think he's saying 25. I can't remember it. 25 tons, 25 feet, or something akin to that. He says like 3 tons of him. I think that's the way what he says. That was fantastic. That was an excellent scene. I loved just the scenes on the boat when they're just chilling. You get a sense of like the way in which it builds when Quint's sitting by the fishing pot, the fishing reel, and you see like I'm not an expert on fishing, but like the circle thing is just slightly making a noise slowly, but as it slowly builds, and Quint gets into position, and you can tell. I think this is one of the other great positives of the film. Chief Brody is by all definitions the man in charge, but I think everybody would agree in practice Quint is the man in charge. I think that's a given. I think anybody who watches the film gets a sense that it's Quint that's really in control here. And that just adds to his character, how brilliant he was. I like the supporting actors and actresses, like police chief's wife, the police officer that discovers the body at the start of the film, the woman that asks at the meeting, are you going to close the beaches, the mayor guy that tells police chief Brody that he can't shut the beaches because we're a summer town, we make our summer dollars here. They were good. I like them. No complaints there. And then I suppose it's another great part. Police Chief Brody reacting to when the boy gets attacked on the beach, and then the woman runs towards the beach, and they don't know. She doesn't realise that it's her son that's just been killed. And then also, I love how they tease, like they tease what could have happened to the dog when the teenager's on the beach and he's saying Pippin. We don't know what's happened, but it sends a shiver up our spine. It builds to that climax fantastically. And then we'll of course see that same woman who runs towards the beach slapping Chief Brody, and Chief Brody was like, she's right, or something akin to that. She's basically, she was in the right to slap him because he knew about the teenage girl and he didn't close the beaches, and so it was his responsibility and he just went through with it. And then that happened and tragedy struck. That was once again another positive in the film. I want to mention, what else can I bring up? I want to mention I've already said it, but Quint's tales about World War II, and when Quint and Matt Hooper are talking about their scars. That was a great scene. I love the soundtrack there when Quint's talking about. I love the soundtrack for when Quint's talking about World War II. That was fantastic. John Williams, just brilliant, and of course his iconic theme. How could I not mention that? The iconic theme by John Williams, of course. That's absolutely fantastic. And I suppose I should bring up the fact that. Well, I end this brief review on Chief Brody being in the boat as it's sinking, and he climbs up the pole, and he's got his gun and he's firing at the shark, and he's got a fire extinguisher, or he's got a device in his mouth. The shark's got a device in his mouth, or like a fire extinguisher, a cylinder. I think it's gas. And he shoots the cylinder, and he blows up the shark, and he says that iconic line, "Smile, you son of a," and then he shoots, and then it blows up the shark, and then he starts celebrating, and then him and Hooper reunite, and then Hooper asks Quint, and Chief Brody just shakes his hand and says no, and then they swim to the beach, and then we get the credits rolling, and that's it. It was just a fantastic, amazing film, and this is one of my all-time, this is definitely in my top 25, top 20 favourite films of all time. I've watched this film countless times, and I'm definitely going to be rewatching this film again. That's my review for Jaws. Thank you for watching.